I got a microphone. Hello.
Hello, hello. How are we all? Are we doing well? I can't hear you. I'll just assume that you're fine. I'm great too. Thanks for asking, if you asked. If you didn't, then that's really rude. So today I'm going to be doing something a teeny weeny bit different. I'm still going to be talking about films, but this one has a bit more of a structure, which would be a miracle if my channel had any structure, to be honest. So like most people, I love me a podcast. So one of my absolute favourites is Brett Goldstein's Films to be Buried With. So people go on this podcast and they get asked specific categories and they give their answer to what film for them fits in that category. Now I love this podcast so much that I prepared my answers months ago. And now I've started doing this channel about movies and TV. I thought, why not make a video and not let that list just sit on my phone? I'll tell you guys my list and see if you have any of the same opinions or if you have different ones. I'd love to hear your films to be buried with, but here are my films to be buried with. That was a mediocre link. Well done. First film you remember seeing. I'm pretty sure it's probably The Jungle Book because my dad watches it about 2 million times a year. So I'm guessing that he probably put it on and then I watched it. We had a VHS copy of it that used to end when the temple falls down and then that was the end of the film. But I don't remember if that was me or if I was told by my siblings that that's the one that they had. So I don't know. I feel like it was one of the first ones. I do like the new one, or the new ones, because there's Mowgli as well, isn't there? But nothing compares to the old one. It's just, I'm going to say it, I say it a lot, it's iconic. It is. Film that made you cry the most. Oh, Jesus. I've got two answers for this one because the one that made me cry for the longest amount of time was Avengers Endgame. But I think that's just because I was so invested in those characters and that story. I cried from like half an hour in. Actually, to be fair, I think I cried from before the film started because I was so excited. Until like an hour after. I didn't have anything to drink that day because it was a really long film. I didn't want to miss a second of it. I was so dehydrated and then I lost all of the water from my body from crying. So all of my water reserves had gone. I was like crawling out of that cinema like I was crawling through the desert. But the film that made me cry the most, the amount of cry that came out of my body, my whole body, was more than I have ever felt in my life, was Gifted. I'm not going to give away what made me cry because I don't want to do like a big spoiler, but I have never sobbed at a film so much. I had to pause it because I was crying so much that I couldn't hear the film. I couldn't see anything. That film broke me and I really want to watch it again, but I don't feel like I can put myself through that kind of pain again. An honourable mention for this one though was Coco. So one time I was doing this Disney song quiz. You had to guess the song title, the character that was singing it and the film that it was from. And I was having a great time and then suddenly Coco comes on, Remember Me. It's a 10-second long clip and I was in floods by the end of it. All I hear is, Remember Me, and then you just hear me go, oh no, oh no. The funniest film, it has to be Bridesmaids. That one cracks me up every time. That cast is some of the best female comedy actors in the business. And together they just shine. That was disgusting. But yeah, I've discussed this one before, so I won't go into detail again. Some of the scenes in that film come to me in the worst moments, and they crack me up. Crack me up. Worst film ever. My worst film has to be Robin Hood, but don't dismay, not the Disney one, the Russell Crowe one. I'm not a Russell Crowe fan. I'm sure some people love him, some people think he's great. Not for me, you know? I think I saw this film in the cinema with my dad. I don't remember what happens, if I'm honest. Steals from the rich, gives to the poor. That's about all I know Robin Hood wise. I watched this film again a couple of years ago because I was going through a bit of a Luke Evans obsession, and I saw on his IMDb that he was in it. So I was like, okay, we'll watch this one. Give this one another chance. He's literally in it for like 10 seconds. I had to sit through that whole film for that 10 seconds of Luke Evans. And, you know, as much as I love him, it was not worth it. Because even after that 10 seconds, I still had to sit there in case he came back. And spoiler alert, he doesn't. I can't even discuss it because it's making me angry. It's just so boring. Film that scared you the most. This one was hard because, like, a lot of films used to, like, stay with me, but I could sit through them and I could cope with them. I'm more of a fan of scary films these days than I was previously. But I very rarely had to turn a film off because it was too scary. The only one I can remember that really freaked me out was when I was younger watching Nightmare Before Christmas the first time. I think it was the vampires because they were like on like a conveyor belt, not conveyor belt, but I can't think of the word. They'd like slide in and like they were on wheels, and that really freaked me out, and their voice was like really creepy. Something's up with Jack, something's up with Jack. That one really stayed with me and really freaked me out for quite a few years because I think I watched it quite young when I was still very scared of things. The bit that still freaks me out is in What's This? When he goes into the children's bedroom and you've got like Jack Skellington, who's huge. He's so tall, and these tiny little children in their beds, and he's just being really pure and just like amazed that there's no monsters under the bed and things. But he's in their bedroom, and that's not okay. I don't like it. It still really freaks me out, and I really don't like it. But I can deal with the rest of the film now because it's a children's film. Film that means the most to you. This one was a no-brainer. It had to be Labyrinth. This is my film that I watch when I'm sad, when I'm sick, when I'm missing home, when I am in any kind of mood. I can watch Labyrinth and it will cheer me up. It's all the puppets and the music and Sarah. I love Sarah. And when she comes out in her dress in the masquerade scene, she's just so beautiful, and I just want to be her. Like, if I ever get married, then that's what I want to look like on my wedding day, and I don't care if it's really over the top. I want to look like Sarah from The Labyrinth. Thank you. So if my future husband is watching this, then sorry, those are my requirements. Film you found the sexiest. I'm going to glaze over this one because my parents are probably watching this and I feel a bit awkward. I'm going to say Immortals because everyone in it is really attractive and Luke Evans is in it looking spicy. So we'll say Immortals. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's visually fantastic. Film you used to love but don't anymore. I'm probably going to say Beetlejuice. Every time I think, I'm going to watch Beetlejuice, I love this film, it's one of my favourite films, and then I watch it and it's not. because it's rubbish. I don't like the actors in it. I like the story and I like the Tim Burtonisms, but that's about it. The dinner scene's quite good. I dressed up as Beetlejuice for Halloween like 2 years ago. But when I watch it, I just get disappointed because I think I big it up in my brain a bit too much. And I'm like, oh, I love it. It's so good. It's not as good as I remember it. But I really want to see the musical because the musical looks really good and it looks like it's probably going to be one of my favourites, but it's probably never going to come over here ever. Sorry, I got stressed. Film you love but no one else does. Here we go with the Tim Burton again because I've got Planet of the Apes. Yeah, the Mark Wahlberg one. It's so bad, but I love it. And I love, like, that they just have everyone in the ape costumes and everything is practical rather than like CG. I do like the new ones with the mocap, and Andy Serkis is just he's just a genius. And my mum kept telling me off for using this word, but he's a legend. I'm sorry, Debbie, but he's a legend. And it's got Helena Bonham Carter in it as a little chimp, and she's just great. The more I talk about it, the more I realise that there is not a lot to talk about that film. But I like monkeys. They're not monkeys, they're apes. But I like them. Film you could watch over and over. Of course, it's School of Rock. I've talked about this one before. Well, I didn't really talk about it. I did a kind of short review on it and didn't talk about the film at all. So, well done me. So I'm going to make a separate video just talking about School of Rock. It's one of those films that if it finished in my DVD player and then it kind of started again, I wouldn't bother stopping it, to be honest, because I'm happy to watch it twice or consistently every night for a month. It's probably why I can quote the whole thing to memory. Objectively, the greatest film of all time. Now, this isn't my favourite film. This is a film that I think is one of the best films that has ever been made, which is Detroit. I watched it like full focus for the whole film, and that doesn't happen with me a lot. Occasionally I'll wander, but with that film I was fully engrossed the whole time. Will Poulter plays one of the most disgusting people. He is like a horrible, racist police officer, and he does it so well. I think he is one of the best actors going at the moment. Like, I love Will Poulter. Anything he's in and he plays like a bit of a brat or just a bit of a horrible person, I'm still kind of like, oh, but it's Will. I love him. And then he did that character and I actually hated him. And it takes a very good actor for you to not see them, to see the character that they're playing and actually hate the person that they're playing. Some of the best acting I've ever seen. So go and watch that film. It is very difficult. It's a difficult watch. It's very uncomfortable. There is so much hate in that film, but it's done so well, and you can tell that there was so much respect in the cast, that the black people in the cast allowed the white people to go as far as they had to go to tell this story, and they had the permission to do what they wanted because they trusted each other. And like, I'm welling up a bit. This is making me a bit emotional. To tell that kind of story is so difficult, and I really admire them for doing it. The amount of trust that it must take to make a film like that and go that far. It's just amazing. And I really, really admire everyone that was involved in that film. And everyone needs to watch that film. Just everything about it is so well made. Please go and watch it. But be ready for it, because it's a deep one. It's deep. Let's move on to some lighter things now. I got a bit serious there. I didn't like that. Best opening sequence. Has to be Hot Fuzz. Well, it had to go in somewhere, didn't it? You know, it's me. That whole opening sequence with him doing the monologue of all his achievements through his career. The cameos in the beginning of that film are so great. You've got Garth Jennings, who is the criminal holding the gun. You've got Peter Jackson dressed up as Santa, who stabs him. Those are my fun facts. I've talked about how much I love that film before. I won't go into it again. It's just so well written and directed. So that first sequence is so Edgar Wright, it hurts. Best closing sequence. I don't know how long a closing sequence is allowed to be, but I put Django Unchained, because everything from the point where Leonardo DiCaprio cuts his hand, which he does for real, if you didn't know. So basically, if you haven't seen it, he slams his hand down on the table and cuts his hand. And usually you'd be like, ow, I hurt my hand, can we stop? But no. Absolute nutter, keeps going. So he's got blood dripping down his hand and wipes it on Kerry Washington's face. But from that point until the end of the film is non-stop Quentin Tarantino. Favourite film? Now this one was really hard and I don't think I found an answer for it. I think it's Hot Fuzz, but I don't think it's Hot Fuzz at the same time. And then I also think it's Labyrinth, but then I don't know if it's Labyrinth. And then I say it's Beetlejuice, but it's definitely not Beetlejuice. So I feel like I'm going to have to come back to this. When I find out what my favourite film is, I'll tell you. And finally, my film to be buried with. So in the podcast, Brett puts it this way. When you get to heaven, you can bring one DVD with you for your own personal movie night to show everyone else. What film would that be? And knowing me, I'd have to say Hot Fuzz. If I had to have that one DVD for the rest of my afterlife, why not make it a fun one? Why not make one that I can reenact myself? So those are my films to be buried with. If you want to give it your own go, I'll put the categories down in the description and you can fill it in. Send it to me if you want and we can have a discussion. I'm always happy for a discussion. I don't socialise. Wherever you get your podcasts, go listen to Films to be Buried With, because it is quality. Quality. Well done, Brett. Thanks for watching. Give it a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to stay around for the madness and mediocre content. As always, stay safe and look after yourselves. Bye!